everyone, it's Jade from Boho Bookworm. Today I am going to be sharing with you my favourite sci-fi fantasy books, which I think for most of you is probably a bit of a surprise because sci-fi and fantasy is not my thing. This was actually a top 5 Wednesday a couple of weeks ago and I just completely forgot about it. So this is going to be 5 sci-fi fantasy books that I actually found really enjoyable, which I think means that they really do stand out because I don't enjoy that kind of genre. So let's get started. Sadly, I don't have any of these books on me because I have just moved to Cape Town, South Africa, and I've only brought books with me that I haven't read yet. But I'm going to start with Crazy Love You by Lisa Unger. Now, I gave this book 5 stars, 5 out of 5. I read it in December of 2016 on Audible. The Audible book is absolutely fantastic. It's such a gripping book, guys. I cannot recommend it enough. The author actually sent me a signed copy because it was actually a book I found in Bali when I was on holiday, and it was just kind of lying next to a pool table, and I was like, oh, this sounds really good, I'm going to pick it up. So I stole it from this little hotel in Bali and turned out it was missing a heap of pages, so I was really gutted, and I think I tweeted about it or I did something on social media about how sad and disappointed I was at how people treat books and how I really wanted to read this book and I was very disappointed that I wouldn't get to see where it was going. And Lisa Unger actually responded and told me, send me your address and I'll send you a copy, and I was like, okay. Yeah. Crazy Love You is like a fantasy, paranormal, psychological thriller that will absolutely blow your mind. The main character is Ian, who was very tortured as a child. He was bullied for being fat, he had no friends, and he had a lot of negativity with his family. Then one day he meets this little girl called Pris, and they become really fast friends and are very connected, but bad things always seem to happen whenever she's around. As the years go on, Ian matures and he sheds the kilos and he becomes this really successful graphic novelist. But then he meets this other girl called Megan and he falls in love with her. But Pris really doesn't like this and she will do everything to make sure that this one fucks off. This book has so many twists and turns, guys, and you will constantly second guess yourself. When you think you know where the book is going, it completely just like gives you whiplash because it goes in the completely opposite direction. It's brilliant and it's very supernatural and very strange, but oh my word, you just have to pick it up, please do. Then we have The Witch of Portobello by Paulo Coelho, which I actually read in 2014, and yes, this book is very spiritual, but it does have fantasy elements to it. I gave it a 4-star review on Goodreads. This is a book about a girl called Athena who is very free-spirited. She's never been scared to explore the world and see what it has to offer. What I found really unique and interesting about this book was that right from the very beginning, you know that Athena is murdered, and the book kind of works in chapters of other characters' experiences with her, almost like an interview. Athena is taken out of Romania by her adoptive parents when she's very young after being abandoned by her gypsy mother. She was brought up with this really strong religious vocation, almost to the extent where she really wanted to become a saint one day. She decides that it's her life journey to have a baby and to get married, and so she does just that. But then after the baby's born, a little boy, her marriage starts to fall apart, and so when she goes to church, which she visited religiously, then she, how can I explain it? She is denied from receiving sacrament, and the church doesn't want her anymore because her marriage has failed. Because of this, Athena decides to go off with her son and try to find her birth mother in Romania. It's a really beautiful concoction of magic and spirituality, and it's just a very unique concept for a book. All of Paulo Coelho's books are, aren't they? They're just fantastic. So this one is absolutely stunning and creepy too, I think. Just give it a read. Let me know if you've read it, because if you haven't read a Paulo Coelho book, you really need to. I'm about to read The Pilgrimage by him, and I'm very excited because apparently it's about walking the Camino de Santiago, and obviously I really want to do that. It is absolutely no surprise that I would mention Outlander by Gabaldon, which I obviously gave 5 stars, and it is about Claire Randall and how she goes into her second honeymoon in Scotland and she gets transported back into time into, like, what was it? I always get this wrong, like early 1800s? I can't remember. It's when the Scottish Highlands and all that stuff happens. I'm not prepared for this at all, guys. Yes, 1700s, and during the Jacobite Rising. And she meets this guy called Jamie Fraser, who is my other boyfriend. I just adore him. And she can't get back to the 1900s where her husband is. So basically she gets transported through these standing stones, and it's really fucked up, but it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm giving it a really weak description. It's just so good, and Stars did a TV show on it, which is absolutely fantastic as well. I didn't enjoy the second book, which was Dragonfly and Amber. I really didn't, but I am going to try the third book, Voyager, and see how it goes. My boyfriend is actually currently doing the sound. Oh no, it's raining and I have to walk in the fucking rain to go to the bus stop now. My life sucks. Anyway, back to the interesting point about the fact that my boyfriend is working on the set of season 3, Voyager, in South Africa, and apparently it's absolutely incredible, and the scene setup is gorgeous, but he can't even show me photos of it because he has to sign confidentiality agreements, and it's just very heartbreaking. And he actually met Diana Gabaldon the other day. This is like my favourite thing in the world, and I'm so close and yet so far. Do you know how frustrating that is? Next book I'm going to speak about is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. Originally on Goodreads, I ended up giving this book a 3.5-star review, but after careful consideration, I've decided to up it to 4. This is a very good sci-fi book. It's also a thriller, but in a very unique way. It is definitely not your stereotypical thriller book. Basically, it's about this guy who gets asked the question, are you happy with your life right now? And he wakes up, and the next day his life as he knew it is not the same, because he gets abducted, right? And he wakes up on this gurney surrounded by strange men in all these weird suits, and next thing he knows, his life has completely changed. Like, his wife isn't his wife, his son was never born, everything in his life has just like gone topsy-turvy. There's all of these like alternate universes of how his life would have ended up if he made different decisions, and it's just so fantastic. And so he goes on this journey using this device that he actually created in one of his other worlds to try and find his real life, his wife and his son and everything. But there's also like a billion of him in these alternative universes that also want that specific life, and they actually like want to murder each other, and it's just brilliant. And so one of him actually abducts him, and I'm probably giving away so many spoilers right now, but it is so cool. And like, how an author could have that imagination is crazy and beautiful and incredible and astounding. It's so easily digestible. With a lot of science fiction, I find that maybe sometimes I don't really find myself understanding that much because I'm not a scientific person, guys, but this one, you don't have to enjoy science and be a physicist to be able to read this book and enjoy it and understand it. I am going to speak about Cinder by Marissa Meyer, which I gave a 5-star review. Cinder is about a cyborg, which is basically a human with mechanical elements in her body, which came around because she was in a car accident. She lives in New Beijing, and it's kind of like a fairy tale retelling of Cinderella, but Cinderella is like a love story, right? The original. Cinder is not, by Marissa Meyer. It's not a love story at all. It's so much more than that. This is about a world that's at war, and there's this, everyone's dying of this plague, and there's one person that has the antidote, the evil Queen Lavana, and she will only give the antidote to this Prince Kai guy if... I'm explaining this so bad. She'll only give the antidote to Prince Kai if they form this alliance, and I think it involves them getting married, and obviously Prince Kai doesn't want to do this. And one day Prince Kai takes his android to go and get repaired by Cinder, who is actually a really gifted mechanic. And she's a cyborg with mechanical elements in her body. How convenient. But yes, and he actually finds her very attractive. And so they start, no, they don't really even start a relationship. The whole book, nothing actually really happens. But you can see that there's an attraction there, and it's just so freaking good. So they are five of the sci-fi fantasy books that I have actually really found myself enjoying. There are so many more too. I was actually very surprised by how many sci-fi fantasy books I have actually read, and they would be things like The Night Circus, which I loved. There was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, Saga Volume 1, the graphic novel, and Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb I also really enjoyed, and I'd like to continue with that series. Let me know what fantasy books you found yourself really enjoying. I'd love to hear everything that you have enjoyed, because maybe it is a genre that I will grow into. I think, you know, like the Terry Pratchett books, I've got every single one ever published, and I would absolutely love to get into them, but I just don't know where to start. So if you've got any suggestions with that, let me know. Otherwise, have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!